Okay, so the Grounded Reason podcast has gone on the road. Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Grounded Reason podcast. This week, while I say we're on the road, it's really, we're just recording from a hotel room because Joel and I are out at LA Podfest to check out some, cool podcasts to listen to. The Dollar for One, Love It or Leave It. I think we're going to see We Hate Movies. Like, a lot of good stuff out here all in one day. I think we have...
Yeah, it's like tomorrow, right?
Saturday.
So tomorrow meaning Saturday.
Depending on when we release it.
Depending on when we release this.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's for podcasters, this is kind of a fun event to come and, listen to a little bit of shop and then catch a bunch of shows. So
yeah,
pretty fun.
So we're out here. And I maybe realized when we were flying out here that like Joel and I seem to be always on. Like it's not like we're always on the podcast, but we're always yakking it up, like talking nonstop, to where we got yelled at on the plane.
Yeah.
Which has never happened to me before.
Well,
at least since I was like a kid.
So this guy, so what happened was Dennis and I are sitting in our seats, and there's like, Dennis had strategically placed his backpack in between us.
Yeah, which I always do. Like,
we're flying Southwest.
Yeah,
so
we want to get that middle seat, like
with the buffer seat.
If you've ever flown Southwest, it's pretty much like airplane anarchy, where you just kind of get on and pick whatever seat you want. There's no assigned seats. It's like general seating.
They basically only assign you on your ticket like your order in boarding.
Right.
And then you just grab whatever the hell seat
and
you
even
want.
That is kind of loosey.
It's pretty loosey. It's not. It's self-enforced, right? Everybody kind of orders themselves.
Yes.
Based on what
this would not work in Europe.
This would not work.
No.
It shouldn't work anywhere, right? It basically only works in a society where people really respect the rule of line.
Right.
Like line is like an irrevocable trust.
So really just like UK and United States.
That's really it.
Maybe Australia.
Canada.
And Canada. Yes, those 4 countries, fine. If you're anywhere else, this is
like
not,
a strong English tradition.
Not going to work.
No, which is almost the whole world.
Right.
So like we get in, Dennis saves his seat in the center, and like we're not complete assholes because like everyone has a spot, so it works out. And I
would more than willing give the seat up, but I wasn't saying. No one asked if it was taken.
No,
I just put the thing there because it deters people from asking.
Yeah, they just go to the next row where there's no one there.
Right. So.
And then Dennis leans over and goes, "Just keep talking." Keep talking. That makes them think something important's happening and they won't want to interrupt. And I was like, that's genius. So I just rambled about whatever. And like, so we get going and the flight starts, to take off and whatever. And Dennis and I are yucking it up.
Yeah, talking about nonsense, really.
I don't know. It would just stick, right?
Yeah,
we're basically doing our like back and forth. Like you said, we kind of get into... We kind of get into bits, and we did this before the podcast. We just didn't realize we were doing it.
Right, and it just works for the podcast.
Yeah, now we just record it and let other people listen to it, which, good on you, you're listening. So the guy turns around, he's right in front of me and says, "Hey, could I?" And this guy's probably like 50, so he's not an old, he's a little older. No.
He was stern.
To his credit.
Right.
This was the most polite way you could ask a jackass question possible.
Right. Exactly. Like, totally.
He asked a total jackass question, and we ignored it. But, he basically was like, could I buy you a drink for you to scoot over and talk? Because you guys are kind of talking loud. And I was like, and Dennis... Dennis started to like engage with him, and I basically was like, I had just had this look on my face and went, what?
Yeah, Joel was just like silent.
Yeah, it was basically like no hablo inglés, right?
At him. And I told him, I said, look, you don't have to buy us a drink. We'll quiet down. I mean, fine. But like, you're in an airplane. There's like an engine like blaring out of the window.
It was
the pilot
ridiculous.
is yakking over the speaker like like during this too. Like and like stewardess just gave like the, here's the bag that comes
They
out
did the
of
instructions.
the airbag, make sure you save your children first, blah blah blah. And he's mad at us because, we're being a little loud behind him. So, but anyway,
it was weird, but it was fine. So then, the flight proceeds. I like zone out and pass out for most of the flight. Dennis does work because he's the responsible one.
Right, but yeah, it's just like it just reminded of me of like this podcast just seems to always be happening.
Yeah. Always be closing, Dennis. Always be closing.
So anyway, a little slice of life there for you. Today we're going to be talking because we think we promised how to watch the NHL this season. Puck just dropped yesterday. So we're going to cover some of that today. And Roku also decided to launch some new, actually kind of another, not a full-on rebrand. They've updated a few devices. Yep. They got rid of a device. So we'll kind of get into that. So let's first talk about hockey because our boy Ovechkin.
Yeah. It was a wild night apparently in hockey. So this is just a fun fact for hockey fans out there. This is the first time that 4 season openers have started with a hat trick.
Right. And for those that don't...
In 100 years.
For those that don't know hockey, a hat trick is when the goalie's mask falls off and the puck goes... What?
That's not a hat trick.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
No, a hat trick is when one of the players scores 3 goals or more.
Right. And Ovechkin did it within... all 3 goals came within 7 minutes.
Yeah.
In the third period.
Like, and that's
before 7 minutes.
That's our local team.
Yeah,
that's the Washington Capitals.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why we care about that. But there were 3 other teams where that happened. And so
it's crazy.
The last time it happened was the 1917 to 18 season.
Yeah, I mean, because Alexander Ovechkin is one of the best goal scorers in the league. Yeah. And in his entire career of, I'd have to look it up, but I
think it's like 10 years.
Maybe a little more. I don't know, but something like that. He's only had 18. So it's a rare event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, scoring 3 goals in a single game is not easy to do.
And to have 4 guys do it on opening night is just kind of...
Yeah, and there's still a lot of opening games to play.
Right.
That's the other thing that's wild is that this, I believe, ties the record for most hat tricks in opening season games, which I said, again, was 100 years ago, or said 100 years ago. But, like, there's, I think, like 8 games left or something to play.
Well, there's also more goals back then, too, just because, like, goalies didn't wear masks or pads.
Right, and their teeth were flying out left and right.
Right.
Yeah.
Could you imagine getting a goal with not a mask on? It's crazy.
So I've only had good enough seats to be terrified at a hockey game once or twice. But, like, when you're up close, when you're right on the ice, and a puck slams into the ice.
If you're not paying attention,
it sounds like a gunshot.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, actually, the time of live sports on streaming has really kind of come into its own because hockey isn't really hard to catch at all anymore. I mean, for a couple of areas, it's possible, but a majority of the teams here, you can catch using a easily available streaming service. Now, hockey is kind of a fast-paced game.
Yep.
So you can watch it at 30 frames per second and see what's going on. I seem to not mind it. I definitely prefer 60 frames per second.
Do you remember when they put the little laser trail?
Oh, yeah. People got seizures.
Yeah, that thing was trippy. I did not like that.
Yeah, they used to put like a little red dot on the
puck and it would trail. It looked like a comet.
Right, so you can see it. And the problem is like, I mean, as a hockey fan, you don't watch the puck.
No.
You watch the players' reaction, and then you can just kind of figure out where the puck is based on what the players are doing.
Yeah, you see the puck, blur occasionally, even when you're at a live game.
Right. So I found it distracting. I found because I don't know, I didn't like watching the game that way.
No.
But so if you don't mind watching it on 30 frames per second, the cheapest way to do it is Sling TV. Because a lot of hockey teams show on the regional sports networks in various areas. So I'm just going to run down the list here on what you can get from Sling. So you can watch the Anaheim Mighty Ducks on Fox Sports West. You can do the Arizona Coyotes, Fox Sports Arizona. The Carolina Hurricanes on Fox Sports Carolinas. The Chicago Blackhawks. You have to be very careful how you say that word.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you might just say Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, that doesn't sound as good.
So people say it. It's just no.
Nope.
That's not. So anyway, that's on Comcast Sportsnet Chicago. Columbus Blue Jackets, Fox Sports Ohio. Dallas Stars, Fox Sports Southwest. Detroit Red Wings on Fox Sports Detroit. Panthers in Florida on Fox Sports Florida. LA Kings, Fox Sports West. Minnesota Wild, Fox Sports North. The Nashville Predators, Fox Sports Tennessee. San Jose Sharks is on Comcast Sportsnet California. St. Louis Blues, Fox Sports Midwest. Tampa Bay Lightning on Fox Sports Sun. And the Washington Capitals, where our boy Alex Ovechkin plays, is on Comcast Sportsnet
Mid-Atlantic.
I can't even say it. Comcast Sportsnet Mid-Atlantic. Now, a lot of those Comcasts are actually rebranding to NBC.
Yeah.
So they haven't in all areas yet. I still think it's Comcast Sportsnet until like next week, and then they're going to be rebranding.
Oh, that's weird.
I know it's they're all under a rebranding phase. So those are all on Sling TV Blue. You have to get the Blue package because that has like a lot of the Fox and NBC stuff. Now, as always, it's like free for 7 days, so you can check it out. And if 30 frames per second isn't working out, you can check out Fubo TV because they actually carry all those networks too. But it's a $34.99 per month price typically, but they're doing a special where you can get the first 2 months for $19.99, and that'll cover about a third of the season for you.
Yeah, that brings down your annual cost too.
Right.
Pretty
Furthermore, for all your Philadelphia Flyers fans and a bunch of teams in New York, you're like, well, what the hell's our stuff? Right. Because they are on like Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia for some reason isn't on
the Blue Sling.
It's not, and it's not on any of the other ones either, but it is on Fubo TV. So Fubo TV adds not only all those Sling channels, but they also show at a higher frame rate. And the Philadelphia Flyers show on Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia. They actually had the MSG network, the Madison Square Garden network, which shows a lot of those New York teams. So you can get like the New York Rangers, the New York Islanders, the New Jersey Devils, and Buffalo Sabres. They're all on various MSG branded channels, which all show up on Fubo TV. Now, I think Fubo TV is the only one currently, as of this podcast, where you can watch MSG networks.
So there's two benefits there, right? Like, one, you get better market coverage. So, like, if you want to watch one of those teams in Philadelphia or New York, that's really your best option.
Right.
But also, like, if you're a big hockey fan and you just want to be able to watch any of the games, right? Like, throughout all of the country, that's a pretty good option. And then you get the higher frame rate.
Right.
But it does cost you more, right? Like, what did you say the difference was? Like, Sling is what, $19.99, I think, a month?
Yeah, and to be careful here, it does the frame rate. I know this because of some people have been calling in, but it seems to be, while they can do 60 frames per second, it also depends on the network and the network feed they're getting.
Oh.
And some network feeds don't seem to be giving Fubo TV that exact speed. So, I mean, you may want to contact the support and check with them to see if that is, like, your local regional sports network does give that feed. I know a lot of the Fox Sportsnets do. But that's something you'll have to check out. But, I mean, Fubo TV is probably the best service right now to check out hockey and kind of doing it without have to, use it like a blackout, like workaround or something like that, which I'll get into for a minute because there are some teams there, which I did mention on where to watch them. And, for all those, if you've listened to the show before, it's kind of like the same technique to watch in-market baseball or in-market football games, which I'll get into momentarily. Actually, let's just talk about that now. They have NHL.TV is kind of like an online streaming service, and it gives you home and away broadcast, DVR controls, multi-game view, which lets you like watch 4 games at the same time.
Jesus,
it's hard enough to like concentrate on one hockey game.
Yeah, that's a good way to have a stroke.
So, and what's really cool that I like is it'll give you 5 alternate camera angles, so you can actually control what angle you're going to watch the game at.
That's kind of cool.
It's neat. Yeah.
I would certainly play with that.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know if I would.
I mean, it's
really
just a neat little feature to have.
Yeah.
Now, if you live in the local market of that team, it's going to be blacked out because the regional sports network is going to want the
Yeah.
exclusive.
They own the
game.
exclusive rights.
Right.
Yeah.
So to get around it, you still have to buy. You're still gonna have to buy the NHL.TV. But what you can do is, if you're in the U.S. actually or Canada, because it'll work for both, is you can. There's a product by Overplay called Smart DNS.
Yeah.
What's cool about it is it allows you to set what country you want your IP address to appear it's from based off of what service you're using.
Yep.
And it's like a whole matrix in there. So you can go, it's like hundreds of different services. So you can say, if I'm watching, well, Netflix, you really can't, because they're really cracking down. Usually you have to turn off your Smart DNS to watch Netflix, because if you're using a known Smart DNS, they just won't let you use their service because, well, you'll be able to use it if you turn it off, but you won't be able to watch Netflix
with it on, right?
With it on. But for all the other services, you can pretty much pick and choose where you are in the world from your screen on your computer. So what you would do is get the Smart DNS and then just set your country to Mexico.
Yeah.
Because the Mexico has access to all the games across all Canadian, all United States games through NHL TV.
And so just to clarify, the reason why you would do that is if you're trying to watch through the NHL's app and you want to watch your local team, the affiliated network, like your local affiliated network, owns the proprietary rights to that team's games. Right. So what you do is you say, okay, when I'm using that NHL app, I want to register my IP address in Mexico, and Mexico has an agreement with the NHL to let you watch all the localities in the United States and Canada.
Right.
So it appears as though you're watching it in Mexico, even though you're sitting in, let's say, DC.
Right. Now, you can't sign up. You can't sign up for the U.S. version of NHL TV and have this work. You actually have to set up the DNS and then set yourself to Mexico and then go buy the service.
Yeah, that's actually a nuance.
Yeah, because then you get the international. It's just like an international package that you get.
Yeah, and this is legal.
Oh,
right?
it's completely.
Like this, no, I mean, I'm not saying it as a question. I mean, like, it is a legal thing to do.
It's legal. I know you said it's a legal thing, so it's like.
I'm sorry. It is legal. You
won't go to jail.
Will not go to jail.
Because you're paying for it. Because you have to buy NHL TV. So you're not stealing. You're just circumventing archaic licensing rules.
Well, yeah, that's what it really comes down to. Is the rules were set up for when we were doing broadcast television.
Right. Which means, though, that since it is a rule used by the NHL, there is a bit of a risk because they can terminate your account if they like.
And that's really the risk, is that the rules all of a sudden catch up with the technology, and now you have to go figure out how you're going to watch your games.
Right. So, I mean, hopefully this will all get sorted out and people will realize that these laws are stupid and old, and they'll just move on and say, oh, you know what? Let's just, make money off people watching our teams and just split the money. The most reasonable thing is every place has a team. All the teams, sure, some teams make more money than others, but they can get that money back on merchandising rights, and things like that. For watching games and stuff, I just think it's ridiculous that you can't.
It is stupid.
That they just don't split
especially
all the money from TV rights.
This made a lot of sense in the 60s and 70s and even in the 80s when we were more or less watching broadcast television, right? And especially when it came to our sports, right? And people hadn't moved around as much as they are,
right?
Or they have now. So you have plenty of fans of East Coast teams sitting on the West Coast and vice versa, right? So just letting everyone watch the various teams they want to watch and, doing a profit sharing model that's a little less opaque, it just makes a lot of sense. And they will get to that. It will happen. It's just, they haven't worked out the contract rights. That's all it is.
Right. So, I mean, there's no legal worries here. Just you could be out, I think it's like $150 or whatever because you get the whole season.
Yeah. So if they switch the rules halfway through the season or whatever.
And it's a weird dance they do because NHL wants to make money.
Right.
So they're going to be making money through the streaming service.
They make money. The NHL makes money either way.
So for them to lose,
it's the local affiliate,
right? So they're going to lose a lot of money of people doing this.
Yeah.
So they're kind of hesitant to crack down on it. It's odd because they have interests on both sides. They have interests with the owners because the owners want to keep them happy.
Yeah.
And then they have also interests on all the cash they're making off this streaming service.
It really seems to me that the ones who are going to have to come to the table with like a proposed solution are the local affiliates.
Right.
Because like they're the ones who are losing some portion of their revenue stream from this silly rule set that's 30 years old.
So my advice is if you can, use Sling TV Blue package or Fubo TV. If though you can't, get if your team isn't on one of those networks, then just use that blackout workaround.
Yep.
But just bear in mind that it is against the licensing agreement, so they could terminate service. I personally doubt they will. I mean,
I don't think they would in the middle of a season because I think there would be an uproar.
It
right?
would,
like,
but
I think they would wait until the end of the season and say we're no longer doing this.
Yeah. So I think that's hockey. I know season started yesterday. We're delayed on this, but there you go. It's a long season, months and months, and then the playoffs take like a year and a half or 3 years to finish usually.
We got to talk about the hat tricks.
That's right. So also some big news is Roku decided it was time to pretty much do a whole device refresh. Some big kind of news here is it looks like they put a lot of focus on the streaming stick side of the house. So last time we covered it, we had the Roku Expresses, we had the Roku Premieres, we had the Roku Ultra, and then some streaming sticks. They've gotten rid of like the middle grade device. There's not going to be any more Roku Premiere or Premiere Plus. The middle device has kind of been replaced with a new streaming stick, and the new streaming stick comes in two flavors. One is like it's basically a beefed up processor, and it's similar to like last year's iteration of the streaming stick for $49.99. But they also offer a streaming stick now for $20 more, $69.99. So that's on par with the new Amazon Fire TV that they just released,
right.
The TV dongle.
Yep.
And it has HDR and 4K TV support.
Nice.
Yeah. So that is pretty huge. It also comes with the new remote. The new Roku remote actually controls your TV. It has volume buttons on it. So when you set up,
Which has been like honestly lacking. Like that's been pretty annoying that we have to juggle back and forth.
Yeah, so it almost makes it like you have like a Roku Smart TV.
Yeah. Because
your remote now works with your television's volume and power. So you can turn it on and off. So goodbye, having two remotes.
Yeah.
And it also has that built-in microphone for voice search, which the old Roku stick did not have.
It still has the headphone,
right? And that's actually
option, right?
that's actually on both sticks.
Yeah,
regardless of the $50 one and the
voice
$70. Yeah, well, all of it. It all comes with that new remote. The difference, major difference though, between the $49.99 one and the $69.99 one is that HDR and 4K support. Also, with the $70 one, this is kind of like a design choice they made that is pretty smart. If you have a Roku stick, you already know this, but if you don't, it's powered from a micro USB port that you plug into a wall outlet. It kind of plugs right into the device. They put the Wi-Fi receiver on that wired dongle.
Really?
Yeah, and now that gets the wireless signal away from the television, which causes a lot of interference.
Right,
and they're saying that it's really boosting. They're bragging, saying it's 4 times faster than the old stick. However, a lot of that is also going to be that it's now using 802.11 AC instead of N, which is puts some more speed into it.
Well, because the new standard's inherently faster.
It's inherently faster, but then to have it move away from the interference. I mean, that will
smart.
Help. That will definitely help because TV interference is pretty heavy.
But 4 times is a big bump for them to brag about.
That's because they're changing the standard from N to AC. But I think it's a smart design choice to like move that wireless receiver away from your TV.
Yeah, anytime you can remove interference from a line,
Right.
life's better.
Yeah, and like I tell that like with live TV especially.
Yeah, I remember this from the antenna episode.
Yeah, because two things happen. Usually, somebody sticks their router in a closet, and that's gonna the wireless signal gets crushed at that point. Second factor is your streaming box is almost always near your television.
Yeah.
So maybe if you can get it away from your TV a little bit, that can also help out. And they'll say, well, Netflix works. And I was like, well, Netflix is on demand. It's not more of like a back end. Like when you're streaming live TV.
It's not chatty.
It's a constant handshake going on because they're constantly sending you a live stream.
Yep.
So it's like a constant send and receive to where with, streaming from something on demand, it's already recorded content that they're just blasting down to you.
Yeah, they blast it down, and like basically what happens is now it's read locally, and so there doesn't need to be the chat back and forth from your local to the hub.
Right. So that's really the difference there. And cleaning up your wireless situation definitely fix watching live television. I'm hoping that this new Roku streaming stick with the dongle wireless receiver will help as well.
Seems like it would.
Yeah, and I mean, $70 for an HDR 4K device it's pretty good.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, Roku's probably, not probably, it is my favorite streaming device just for ease of use alone.
We still have a Roku 4.
Right.
I still think it's awesome.
Now,
it's behind the times.
I can do a lot with an NVIDIA Shield because it's a lot of flexibility there, but it's super complicated for some people to use, and they don't want to have to deal with all those complications. So I always recommend for people who are looking to cut the cord, grab yourself a Roku. And right now, I'm probably saying the best value pick right now is that $70 Roku stick. So, but the Ultra is still around, which was that's their high-end box.
Yeah.
They dropped the price on it though. It's like now it's like $99.
What was it before? Like 130 or something?
Something like that. Yeah, it's like 130 before.
Yeah.
It's not many changes. It's pretty much the same device. They did beef up the processor. It's supposed to be like 50% faster. But it's all the stuff they had before. It's really the only way you can get like an Ethernet port on a Roku device for a wired connection. It has USB storage, optical, like a port for it. Optical audio out. Same remote as you get with a stick. It's got that like cool little Roku like button to find your remote when your kids like stick it under the couch.
Which I'm telling you, one of my favorite design decisions ever made.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty much the most powerful Roku device. It gets you the HK.
Yeah.
I mean the HDR and the 4K video.
Yeah.
But I don't really think the $30 is really worth the. I mean, unless you need an Ethernet port, I would go with the beefed up streaming stick. And then, of course, for the legacy TV folks out there who want to use like the old, like yellow, red AV cables, you're gonna have to get yourself Roku Express. So, I mean, in that device, I think it has a little bit of faster processor in it, but the prices are the same. It's like $30.
I still think it's a super smart decision on their part to keep that as an offering, because there's a ton, like, those televisions are remarkably long-lived.
Yeah.
Right? Like, they just won't break. I mean, like, I have not one of those, but I did. And I eventually just sold it on Craigslist because, like, the damn thing wouldn't die.
Right. And that's, just to be clear, that's the Express Plus. And that is a $40 device. It's $39.99. And it's really, I think that's the reason is because they want to keep legacy people in the game with those legacy televisions. Yeah. And you got to pay a little bit of a premium because not every device has those cables on them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, they have to charge you a little bit of a premium because they have to be able to crank those off a specialized line.
Right.
It comes off a specialized manufacturing line to put all of those adapters in.
Right. But aside from those, like, the backward compatibility with the old, component cables, same exact device, really. And the cool thing with the Express is it's really kind of like a stick. I mean, it's small enough. You can move it around from TV to TV. It's, a good entry-level streaming device.
Yeah.
You're not going to get your top-end video with it, but it's good enough to stream. Yeah. So I recommend that if you're person out there likes to pinch pennies, and the $29.99, that's the cheapest device out
Well,
there.
also, if you're not big into like live television of whatever
Right.
sort,
Or
why pay the extra money?
Right. If you just want to like put it on there so you can watch your Amazon videos and your Netflix and Hulu, then fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Roku's also putting out slowly rolling out their OS 8 update, which really is just minor screen tweaks and quite a few like bug fixes. There are problems here with like intermittent reboots sometimes on certain Roku devices, and they clean that up. So I mean, you'll be seeing that roll out soon. Really, but that's the Roku news this week. I think the big takeaway is the new streaming stick. I'm really excited for that. So, you had some Ajit Pai news.
Oh yeah, just in Ajit Pai news.
This week in corporate chicanery.
Yeah, he's been in the least surprising decision of all time by the Senate. He's been reconfirmed
I just did a spit take.
Yeah,
no,
exactly by the Republican Senate. It basically ended up being a party line vote.
No,
yeah,
in
surprise.
No, come on.
Yeah, surprise. There was, some grumpy senators that got up there and said, "We don't like you," brr, brr, brr.
Right.
And then some others said, "We did like you," brr, brr, brr.
Right.
And that was about it, right? Like, so he's back in. It's a retroactive appointment. So what that basically means is that he gets to have on his resume that from, I think it's July 2016 up until potentially all the way till 2021.
Yeah, that's right, because Wheeler stayed on a little longer. Right, okay.
That he is the commissioner of the FCC.
Right.
So, again, till 2021, we may be dealing with this...
2021?
Well, I mean, hopefully not, right? I mean, again, that will all come down to the presidency. Like the race for the presidency will decide whether he is going to be commissioner for at least that last year.
Right. Yeah, because, I mean, a Verizon lawyer seems, perfect to defend our, the will of the people against ISPs.
Especially like, hey, we've got one issue that somehow has united the tribes, and it's don't fuck with net neutrality, and yet this dipwit decides that it's the one thing he wants to pick a fight on.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, he's been quiet about it, because I remember earlier in the year he was out there like smiling, drinking out of his big ass Reese's mug, like pretty much dancing a jig over like bringing down net neutrality. After the comments came in and the kind of like the big public backlash, he's not out in the public eye as much. So I'm thinking this is just my interpretation. I mean, I have no evidence of this whatsoever except for what I've seen. It just seems he's kind of backed off of the public push to get rid of it.
Yeah, I agree.
But I still think he's going to do it.
Like. Right. I think he will wait until the outcry has died down and then try and do it on the slide.
Yeah, well, there's also, there's a lot of, a big problem he has is the whole, and we've talked about this before, there's a law in the books that in order to remove regulatory policy, you need to prove that there is a real reason or point to it. Right. And they do that because they didn't want politics to dictate, administrative policy for agencies that really are supposed to be caring about, the area of the economy that they're stewarding, essentially.
Well, in
or
another
communications, if you will.
You remember we were talking about the one senator. It turned out he was a Republican senator from
Thune.
Thune.
Yeah,
from South Dakota. His argument was what he was trying to argue is that we should have a actual law defining what the role of net neutrality should be in our society, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
how we keep a free and open internet and trying to define it in law so that the political winds didn't dictate this thing from it. And I see what you're talking about as like this rule or this law around the rulemaking process as being something very similar, right? Like it's
It
trying to
is.
keep,
And it's been on the books for a while.
yeah, and
Like,
it makes a hell of a lot of sense,
right.
right?
So the problem he's facing is his whole argument was around this BS that net neutrality hurts infrastructure investment.
Yep.
Now, okay, couple things. First off, efficiencies in technology sometimes give you more bang for your buck. So it's completely possible that investment decreases and infrastructure capacity increases.
Right.
So
Like we talked about earlier, like the standards changing.
exactly.
When the standards change, sometimes the lines don't need to be expanded as rapidly because like the content itself can move faster.
Okay, and another thing, it's really not investment really.
No, it hasn't gone down at all,
Hasn't gone down.
right? It's gone up.
So not only is like the premise pointless, but the misplaced premise is also incorrect.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember from the episode we covered specifically about this. I think it was investment over the last couple of years have been growing at a 6 to 7% clip.
Well, yeah, it's been going up over a while. There was a small blip on the radar because
2015 was
well,
that
there's
what it was?
every time you with big companies that do major infrastructure builds,
Yeah.
they ramp up to it. So there's going to be a year where they spend like tons of money, and then a year where they're like
They're doing
not,
prep work.
right. They're
yeah.
not spending any money because they're building up to like a big infrastructure release.
Yeah.
So AT&T did that, and AT&T actually in I think it was I think it was the first quarter 2016
Okay.
it had a big decrease. But that's back up. If you listen to every earnings call from every major ISP,
Yeah, they're
all
doing just fine.
They're all
right?
saying how they're investing heavily in
Of course
in
they
broadband
are.
infrastructure.
Because the markets would freak the hell out if they weren't.
Right. And they got to tell the truth to their investors. So
Yep.
if you really want to know what's happening, listen to the
earnings
calls. Right. So
I guess to sum up, he's back in.
right.
Right? He's going to be here for a while. We're all going to have to keep our eyes on him because he's going to try and squeeze this nonsense in despite all of the facts that are clear and present.
Right. Because he likes to hang out with all his telecom friends.
Because he's, what's the word? It's a French word. Douchebag.
Yeah.
Le douchebag.
All right. Well, short episode this week because Joel and I have to go get to some podcasting workshops down here at LA Podfest. We just had a little time in the morning here. We decided to set up the microphones, roll out a quick episode. Some news is breaking. We promised to tell you how to watch the NHL. Joel and I are sitting at the bar last night, and I was like, "Oh shit, the hockey game's on!"
The hockey game's on.
So this morning we decided that we should shell that out for you guys. Sorry for the day. Sorry that we're a day late on that.
Yeah.
If you are enjoying the show, please tell your friends. We're on iTunes, podcast app, Stitcher, all the places where you
Pretty
can
much
find
everywhere, yeah.
podcasts. You'll see our show. If you're enjoying the show, leave a review, subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, you can write us, and the email address is. Well, you can write us. What the hell? You can type us.
Hey?
You can email us.
Email. Yeah, that's how you say it.
podcast@groundedreason.com. Podcast, no S, that's singular podcast. You can tweet at us at Grounded Reason, or you can go over to our Facebook page, leave a message there, post there, and we will reply. And as always, you can go to groundedreason.com, check out the articles there on cord cutting, leave a comment, any one of those relevant.
Yeah, we
articles.
pick them up over here too.
Yep.
From there.
Right,
So.
exactly. Because yeah, we're always like looking at the blog. Somebody has a comment, then I mean, there's been cases where a comment has sparked an entire episode. Oh, and as a matter of fact, next show I think we got a really great letter from a guy named John, and he actually had some pretty good points in his letter. And, we'll probably be addressing that one on our next show. And, there's some topics we're going to get out of that. So, if you write us a nice little letter, we'll, give you a little shout out and, maybe even dedicate a whole show to you.
Yeah, try and address the actual questions you have, too.
We might even do that.
Yeah.
So, Or, if you can sift through Joel and I yakking back and forth for 20 minutes.
Or you could always buy us a drink and tell us to shut the hell up like the guy on the plane.
All right, thanks for listening, everybody. This is Dennis Restaro.
And this is Joel Reeves.
And we'll see you next time.
Take care, everyone.